Sandwiched between World War II and the peak of the Cold War is one of the largest humanitarian campaigns in history. It was one of those ideas that is so crazy that it actually worked. It was a mission to feed an entire city using only airplanes, and it was known as the Berlin Airlift. The year is 1948. World War II is finally over, and Germany, in ruins by the end of the war, is finally being rebuilt. At this time, Germany was split into 4 different sectors. The French, English, and American sectors united to form the country of West Germany, while the Soviet sector became the country of East Germany. But Germany's old capital, Berlin, deep inside the Soviet zone, was split in 2 as well. The Allied-controlled West Berlin and the Soviet-controlled East Berlin. On June 18, 1948, the Allied sector released a new German currency because the economy was bust and people were bartering with cigarettes. However, they did this without consulting the Russians, and when the Allies said, "By the way, we're introducing a new currency," the Russians panicked. They were worried about how the new currency would affect their occupation zone, especially because of the Allied-controlled city inside their borders. So the Russians decided to close down all of the land routes leading into West Berlin with the hope that the Berliners would starve and the Allies would be forced to surrender it to the Soviet Union. On June 24th, the people of West Berlin woke up to hear that because of technical difficulties, all traffic to West Berlin was to be halted. For a few tense days, the world watched with bated breath, waiting to see if World War III would erupt from the chaos. Calling for help, Mayor Ernst Rauter of West Berlin proclaimed in a speech that, "You peoples of the world, you peoples of America, England, France, Italy, look at this city and realize that you must not and cannot give up the city and its people." But while the Allies couldn't do anything about the Soviet land blockade without risking war, they did have guaranteed access to Berlin by air. And so an ambitious plan unfolded, a plan to feed all 2 million Berliners using only airplanes. But could they do it? As it turns out, yes. First, the operation was haphazard. In one incident, heavy rain caused 3 aircraft to crash on the runway. New planes that were arriving every 3 minutes were not granted permission to land, creating a dangerous risk of collisions between aircraft. But eventually, they got the airlift down to a science. At the peak of the airlift, one plane landed at Berlin's Tempelhof Airport every 45 seconds. Over the course of the airlift, an astonishing 2.3 million tons of supplies were delivered. The Russians were increasingly embarrassed by the turn of events. An Allied counter-blockade on East Germany was wreaking havoc on their economy, and after they realized that the Allies could keep up the airlift indefinitely, they decided to lift the blockade on May 12, 1949. Hundreds of Berliners cheered as the first American and British convoys passed through the Soviet zone. In just a few weeks, Berlin was recovering from the effects of the blockade. The Manchester Guardian noted that it had undergone a remarkable change. Although the airlift officially ended on September 30, 1949, it still stands as a reminder of how problems can be resolved through cooperation and not war. It showed the world that the Allies would not give up easily, and it was crucial to preserving democracy in Berlin. After seeing the increasingly large difference in prosperity between the Allied and Soviet zones, many East Berlin citizens began moving to the West. This weakened East Germany's economy even further, so the Soviets put up the Berlin Wall in 1961, a symbol of the ideological divide that would continue to plague the world for decades to come.